Perfect. All right, so we are recording today. So like I said before, my name is Mackenzie. Michelle, as your academic advisor, is also here today. And so we're just going to talk about exploration and some of the things that can help you in this decision-making process in terms of choosing your major. Oh gosh. And so these are our names. And thankfully, we just took a breath because it can be stressful. And so we just want to provide you with some resources today. We're going to talk about and maybe dispel some of those common myths that are associated with choosing your major or choosing a career path. I want to introduce this cycle that we all go through multiple times throughout our lives called the career development cycle. And we're really going to hone in on knowing ourselves or knowing yourself and exploring our options today. And then the last but not least, we're also going to talk about those steps to major and career exploration and what tools and resources and websites can be helpful. So we'll make this, obviously we're recording, we'll make this available after the fact. I can send you the presentation too, if that's helpful for you. Just let me know. We want to help you with all of this. And Michelle, as things come up or as you have input, please speak up throughout the whole thing.
Will do.
Thanks. Okay. So we're going to start with some true or false questions. So if you want to put true or false in the chat, feel free. We have the chat open. We'll probably be using the chat quite a bit today. So just pull that open kind of on the side of your screen. So first question, true or false? My major determines my job. What do y'all think? You don't feel false? Okay, we have one for false. We have false, false. Okay, I see a trend here. Perfectly fine. Awesome. Thank you all. And yes, you are correct. So that is false. There are lots of different factors that help determine the job that you'll pursue or that you'll receive as you go down this path in this trajectory. And so aside from major, it's your experience, it's your connections, it's your interests or those skills that you choose to hone as you start to market yourself and look for different positions and jobs. So I mean, and Michelle and I can give our own examples as well, but the major that you graduate from could be really, really different. The job that you pursue could be really different from another person that graduates with the same major. Same but different. Michelle and I are in similar fields, similar types of jobs. We have actually similar master's degrees. But what was your undergraduate degree, Michelle?
Yeah, I did human development and family studies.
Human development, family studies. Mine was communication. So, some similarities we could probably grasp and find, but choosing a major doesn't limit you to just one career, and choosing a career or, a general field doesn't limit you to just one major. So I think that's something we're going to be coming back to as we continue on today. So what about our second question? Again, we can use the chat here. Okay, so we know that, but in order to make money, I have to major in X. So do you think you have to have a specific major in order to make money? Thoughts? So we got a false in there. Is there only one or two or just a few specific majors in order to make money? And this could have layers. Yeah, great. So in the chat, false, but sometimes it feels like it. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. So although it is false, I really empathize with the comment in the chat. So, money may or may not be kind of your main reason or motivation for pursuing a degree or pursuing a certain major, but we don't want you to have to choose necessarily between like, okay, this major, I know that these are the jobs that you pursue with this major, and these are the only jobs that you can make money. There are plenty of exciting and fulfilling careers that can also lead to being paid. So one of the statistics that I found that I want to read to you is that there are currently more than 5 million people employed directly in art and design occupations across so many industries. And if we even like look around in the room that you're in right now, we're all in different rooms, you can see so many of those products or services or designs or artwork, things that artists and designers have created. And while I don't know every single interest that you all have, we'll start to discuss that in a bit. I know that we can find opportunities for you all as well. So it's sometimes about widening our career lens and starting to be exposed to new opportunities too. So last but not least, my last question, but my major is going to determine what I do for the rest of my life. True or false? Final one. I'll give you all a break. False. Okay. We have a false in there. We got some falses. Yes, you all have caught on very quickly to the true false. This is also false. So as we said before, there are so many different factors that determine what you decide to do. And another statistic I found was that studies have shown that 10 years after graduation, most people aren't even working in like the number one or number two fields that are related to their major. So it's interesting to see, just like students change their majors, alumni or people who've graduated change their interests and change their paths. And even if you talked to maybe family members or your parents, like even the jobs that are available have changed so much throughout their lifetime or throughout our lifetimes. And so just with emerging technology and emerging career fields that weren't around, it's impossible to say your major is going to determine what you'll do for the rest of your life, because we're ever changing and ever evolving humans. So I hope that this has started to dispel maybe some of those thoughts that we have about majors. Just at the beginning of things, I want to introduce to you this idea of transferable skills, which I feel like, again, goes with our last question about like, am I going to be doing this forever? Am I only qualified for one job or one field if I major in this whatever degree or major you're interested in? And the answer is the answer lies, I would say, in transferable skills and transferable experiences. So for example, maybe some of you are working on campus, and maybe you're working in the Office for Academic Advising, or you're working in the student union, or you're working in the wood shop. You're gaining skills that can be transferred from that job into future positions or future careers you decide to pursue. So whether you've had a job or not, let's use the chat again to name some transferable skills that come to mind. Again, so this could be, maybe you've had if you are not working on campus, maybe you've worked in food service, or maybe you've babysat or, mowed people's lawns or something like that. What are some examples of those transferable skills that come to your mind? Customer service, perfect example. Customer service, so helping other people, that can be transferred into basically any field. I know Michelle and I do that every single day. Great example. What else comes to mind? Time management, perfect. Yes, yeah, perfect. Thanks, Michelle. That's a great one. So being able to get to a job on time, and then when you're at that job, managing different responsibilities or projects. That's great. Well, let's keep thinking, and I'll put a list up there too to kind of help us along. When employers from different fields were surveyed, so in 2020, sent out a survey. They do this every single year from one of the professional organizations called the National Association of Colleges and Employers, so NACE. So they asked different employers, different companies, aside from having, a strong GPA, what were some of the skills that they were looking for, the top skills on someone's resume when they applied for a job. And so some of the ones that came up, I think are directly related to some that we just shared in the chat. So being able to work on a team, being able to communicate with other people, being able to problem solve. Like, think about, even in your classes now, you're constantly problem solving. Like, your projects are all about solving some sort of problem. Being able to analyze a situation, work with numbers, quantitative communication. That's why we have classes where you get to present and be critiqued and kind of take feedback, both verbal and written. And you can see the rest on there. It's so much more than just major, and major isn't even listed there because it's not necessarily an attribute or a skill. But these are transferable skills. You can get these types of attributes and skills and strengths in any of the majors at Pratt. Or in frankly, probably any job. So we need to, think about specifics eventually, but I hope this is broadening your understanding of skills majors. And as we go along, we'll continue to talk about this. So I really liked this quote. So it says, it's important for you to know yourself before you know what you can do. In other words, you can't give something you don't have. And I think it just reinforces the importance of, exploring, doing some self-exploration as well, like what's important to you. And that's really where this career development cycle, I think, comes in. And again, we're just going to focus on knowing yourself and exploring options today, because those are two of the first steps. So what this shows you, what this whole cycle is showing you, is that in order to make some decisions and get focused around major or career decision making, we have to start with knowing yourself and exploring those options. Some of you have probably done some of this work already. I don't want to assume we're all at the same level. That's actually why I put that little sign up kind of registration thing in the chat to give us some information about where you are right now. But if you feel like you haven't really started this kind of work, or maybe you need to continue this kind of work, that's what we're here for. So both Michelle and myself can help you, and hopefully this presentation will be a start as well. I also want to point out, like, this is not a perfect cycle. So, we're going to go through this information right now. You're going to do some exploration about yourself and who you are and what's important to you, and then start to look at some of your options. This doesn't just happen one time throughout our lives. I know when I've been job searching in the past, I've had to reassess and kind of start this circle again and this cycle again. So, it may repeat around, it may skip different parts of the circle. But I think it's helpful, at least for me as a visual learner, to see it, and to see some of those options in taking action, getting to know ourselves, and getting focused. So knowing yourself, that really starts for me with 4 things, which we're going to talk about today. So your values, your interests, your personality, and your skill sets. So I have this image that I've used quite a bit with my career counseling, and I put quotes around perfect because I don't necessarily believe that there's, just one perfect career. I think there are many, many options. Maybe you call it career, maybe you call it job, maybe you call it vocation. But what I think this does well is point out the combination and the intersection of all of these things, that they don't just live separately. They don't live without each other. It's all of these little Venn diagrams and intersections of your interests, your values, your personality, and your skills. So take a second with that. Take one moment. Is this something new to you all, or is this something that you've been thinking about? Maybe we can take a second in the chat. maybe new or known. And you can always message me or Michelle separately too. You don't have to say it to everyone if you don't feel comfortable. I won't call out your name. Okay, so we'll keep going. But again, anytime you either have a question or a comment or want me to slow down, speed up, anything like that, just let me know. So we're going to start with values. What are values? Any ideas? And you're also invited to unmute. We're such a small group. What are values? Michelle, do you have any idea?
Yeah. So values, like things that are sort of like things that you hold in your core, I guess, that you like how you, it's what kind of, to me, it feels like kind of like lifestyle things, like how you live your life. Yeah. And the things you believe and sort of walk in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think too. So I think of values and beliefs or principles kind of as hand in hand. But you're right. In terms of work values, it really describes what's important to you regarding your career, your future job or jobs. And when I think about even choosing a major as well, I think about why have I chosen the major that I have, or why am I looking at the majors that I'm looking at? And so when we describe it like that, can you all think of some examples of values? We can use the chat for that. So what's important to you? Any ideas? Yeah, community and the environment. Absolutely. Or community environment, maybe more specifically. That's great. Freedom of expression. These are fantastic. These are great examples. So why you do the work that you do, why you want to pursue the types of jobs you want to pursue or major. Maybe one or two more. Yes, relationship building. I love that. Thanks, Michelle. Perfect. So I'm going to put a list up here as well. And what I want you to do is take a minute, read through this list, and think about which values rise to the top for you. So we in our limited time today, we don't necessarily have time to maybe go through each and every one of these, what they mean, which major responds to which values, but look at this list and just see which ones are standing out to you. We'll just take a minute to do that. And if you need any definitions, let me know. Again, you can put it in the chat. You can write it in a private message. You can unmute. If I can identify or define any of these for you all, let me know. The other thing I want to say about values while you're taking a look at these and maybe starring certain ones or jotting them down or typing them in a separate window is that these values really do play an essential role in your career, in your job, and in your satisfaction in your career choice or your major choice. They shouldn't be considered in isolation, maybe from each other or from the other parts of what make you you, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. But you want to make sure that if these are things that you value, like you all mentioned, freedom of expression, community environment, working with other people. For me, it's helping others, that the type of career path you're choosing has opportunity for that. And again, we can help you make some of those connections as well. Don't expect you to just know all of this. And so the next piece I want to chat about as we move forward, again, sorry, we're just in interest of time, are your interests. So your interests make up a huge part, again, of what you decide to pursue. It's not necessarily the only piece. Again, these are all intersecting. They don't just exist just on their own. But take a minute, again, and jot down, type down just a few of your interests. So I have some guiding questions down there. What do you like to do in your spare time? What are some activities you get so involved in that you lose track of time? What would you do if you couldn't fail? If maybe those are a little bit too broad, maybe more specifically, what problems do you want to solve? Big community environment type problems, small everyday problems. What comes to mind? Maybe one or two of you could share a couple of your interests. We could talk about that. Anybody feel led to share?
Feel free to unmute yourselves too. We're so small.
I
Be
know.
more of a conversation. Yeah.
I love like watching videos about like crafts of like indigenous cultures and like quilt making and that kind of thing, and like the history of it and the tradition, and like environmental like poems, kind of like the in my sustainability class we had some like sections of braiding sweet grass. Have you heard of that?
Yeah,
And it was really
Mhm.
beautiful, and I like love like that's how I would spend my time, and like I would lose track of time and like go through YouTube videos and stuff.
I love that. Oh, thank you so much. That's incredible. I mean, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but have you thought about how that could connect to maybe any of the majors at Pratt, or is that just kind of an interest you like to keep separate from potential career? I'm curious.
I kind of was thinking textiles as maybe like a minor, or sustainability. I'm in a sustainability class right now, and I really
Yeah.
love it. So I'm thinking kind of that, but it is also just kind of like a personal interest.
Yeah.
But I definitely want it to be like part of my career and like studies.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Again, sorry to put you on the spot. I think it's interesting that you bring up, just as an example, like some things stay personal, some things become personal and professional, and sometimes, yeah, they kind of bleed over there. I've found the same thing even for myself. I love music. I'm not an artist or a designer, but music has been a huge part of my life. And I was in a situation where I was faced with, okay, do I want to pursue music as a path or a field, or do I want to pursue something different? And so for me, what I found with my interests is I have to keep them somewhere in my life. For me, again, not saying this has to be for you, music became something that I go to every Broadway show I can. I watch lots of music based like documentaries, but go to concerts. Like I constantly have music on. It's something that's so central and integral to my interests in my life, but it isn't something I necessarily do professionally every single day. So I say that just as like a personal anecdote to remind you that your job, your major, your career doesn't have to include every interest that you have, but still keep them as an integral part of your life too. Michelle, I don't know if you have anything with that at all.
Yeah, I mean, similar to you, Mackenzie, I'm very interested in writing, and when I was in school, I was sort of trying to decide between pursuing creative writing or doing something more just like people oriented.
Yeah.
Um, and I went with that path and wound up working in education, but I still write. And
Yeah.
I'm actually going to take a writing class next semester, and I'm very excited
Yay.
about it. So it's like I'm trying to figure out how to integrate it and keep it close, but I don't do it every day for my work, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's just again so interesting to remind ourselves that we're multifaceted and we're constantly evolving and growing. And although you are faced with a decision in the future, in February, I know we need to make a decision about major. This is just one choice. It's not the forever choice. And so I hope some of this information can be helpful and that it will make you think about the questions you need to ask yourself in order to make this decision as well. So I'm skipping forward to personality here. So one of the things that the Career Center does and offers are different types of assessments or appointments where we can talk about what makes you you and your preferences and just what can help you find a more fulfilling job or career or major or wherever you are in that situation and setting. Some people really, really enjoy the assessment side of things. And when I say assessment, in this case, I do mean like personality assessment. So we do have one that I use quite a bit. You may have any of you seen this from high school or earlier in college or anything like that? The 16 personalities piece. Totally fine if you have, but yes. Okay. So some of you are familiar. And I want to preface by saying like, it doesn't just have to be a career assessment. That's just one of endless tools, but it's an easy and accessible tool that I think can be helpful. And so that if you are into this, if you're open to this type of conversation and you want to use this as like a launch point, we can definitely explore some of the assessments that we have. It would never be us pushing that on you because it's not everyone's preference. And I totally understand that. But what these assessments can help with, like I was saying before, is just to understand some of your preferences. So we all have preferences in terms of like, I really enjoy spending as much time as I can with people, or I really need that time to recharge. That's a really easy preference to connect with. And you might be right in the middle of that preference. But again, understanding those personality traits that you have and tying in with your interests and your values can help you understand what type of job, or maybe even what type of boss or manager that you might want to work for in the future. Again, so whether it's conversational or the things you already know about yourself, or if you're like, I don't feel like I know myself at all, give me every test you have. We can do any or all of those things. So again, you can always reach out to me directly after this. We'll give all of our information, but just to know that kind of opportunity is available. And I feel like that's kind of short on personality because personality makes up a ton, but just because we have so much information in this presentation, the next piece that we move to, again, that was in that kind of diagram in the beginning, are skills. So just up until now, we've talked about values, interests, personality, and skills. So skills are, as it says up here, those competencies that you have gained, you've developed, you've again evolved over time. And there are different types of skills. So we talked about transferable skills a little bit earlier today. As you're working in a job, or as you're exposed to a class project or something, or you're volunteering in the community, you're gaining skills that you can take from one experience to the other, to another. Those harder skills are definitely things that your classes are honed in on as well. Maybe some majors more so than others, but whether it's hands-on woodworking or screen printing or working with textiles, or using the computer-based programs like Illustrator or Rhino or something like that. And then those soft skills that you're starting to develop, or maybe you have through other experiences in your life, are those more interpersonal traits or strengths, like, I don't know, maybe y'all can name some of those skills that you've started to develop. Those also have a part to play in this process. Sometimes it's easier for us to identify and connect with those skills that are lower or lesser skills for us. I know for me, the natural sciences didn't come easily to me. It wasn't something that I really wanted to spend time building. And so I didn't end up pursuing a field that called for those types of skills. Um, Michelle, you were talking about writing. Was writing something that came easily or you just enjoyed?
Yeah, it's something like, yeah, I definitely enjoyed it, and something I, yeah, just found myself involved in all the time and gravitating towards.
Yeah.
And something I've just developed over time, definitely. The more I've done it, because I love it, the more I feel like I've gotten better at it, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yeah, and that's not to say like, okay, well, you got to know everything you're good at now because you can't grow. Because as Michelle
Right.
said, you're taking a creative writing class. Like, I love to hear that.
Yeah.
And another example of a skill for me is like public speaking. In college, when I was in a public speaking class, I was like holding back tears, and now I present to students like every single day. So it's there are definitely skills that we can build, but just wanted to introduce kind of this idea of skills because it leads into, I didn't want to make this presentation super assessment heavy, but I've had the chance to be certified in this tool called Clifton Strengths. And it's all about focusing on, as this quote says, what's right with people rather than fixating on what's wrong with them. And so if you feel like you're, again, maybe you don't feel like you can connect with the things that you do well, or you can't, if I were to ask you, like, what are your strengths? If you feel like you can't name those things, maybe that calls for a little bit more exploration, whether it's this tool or conversation between me and you or you and Michelle. I wanted to let you know about this tool. So it is an assessment. So it's like a test you take individually, independently. But it gives you definitions and terms and language that you can attribute to what you do really well. And at the same time, it's just nice, again, in like the critique culture that we have at Pratt or just in the world today, to spend some time focused on who you are individually and uniquely and what you feel like you bring to the world, that others may not. So what makes you different? So I say all of that just to introduce you or reintroduce or remind you that those are all pieces that go into this process. And really starting with getting to know yourself before, or maybe at the same time that you're starting to explore different majors and occupations and industries and all of that, because it can just be so much more helpful to have clarity of self before reaching out into this great abyss of like these options out there. So if you need help in any of those areas, let me know. We can definitely talk through that exploration. As we move into more of major occupational exploration, this also moves to the second part of our career development circle or cycle. There are so many tools. Again, didn't want this to be kind of overwhelming with the tools, but if you need some examples of, all right, I'm thinking about pursuing animation, or I'm thinking about pursuing creative writing as a major, but I have no idea what the options are for like careers connected to that major, or um, what major to pursue if I want to pursue X career. These are just two tools that can help you. So if you just want to jot those down, take a screenshot, anything like that, or again, I can send this out later. It integrates some of the things we just talked about. So if you even want to just look by interest area, maybe you just want to, you want to help people, you have no idea what major you want to pursue quite yet. You can break it down by interests. If you know your number one value is you want to make a lot of money, and that's your number one thing, you can look up salary information. Or maybe if that's not your number one and you just want the information, that's totally fine too. It's broken down by region. So even if you're not from New York City or New York State, even, you can put in your state and see the type of salary or outlook, how the career is growing in that certain region. So just wanted to introduce a couple of those tools to you. They're not the only ones out there, of course. So if you find them not to be helpful for your specific situation, let me know and we can find some really specific tools. So many out there. The second thing I wanted to show you, have you all heard of LinkedIn before at all? I share this with most of my appointments. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks for the chat. So some of you may have heard of LinkedIn. If you haven't, LinkedIn is a professional networking website. The closest thing I would attribute it to, honestly, is like a professional Facebook, because there is like a timeline and people share stories and things like that. But when maybe for you, you've chosen a major, but you don't have any idea of like the amount of jobs that you could do, or the types of jobs, or even the types of employers that you might pursue. Maybe you're at that stage right now. LinkedIn has almost 50,000 Pratt alumni, as you can see just from these screenshots on the website. And so I can even send you the link here. I'll do that after when we're answering questions and things like that. I'll put the link in the chat. But you can type in any major, any company, any keywords, and see what people from Pratt are doing within that major. And now that they've graduated too. So for example, here I put 2D animation, almost 400 alumni show up. You can see it doesn't really go very far on the screenshot, but it says Nickelodeon down there. Maybe that's your dream company, and maybe we can connect you with that alumni and you all can talk about what it's like to work in 2D animation. So again, just wanted to give some examples of how we can explore a little bit. These are not the only tools out there. I think one of the biggest tools can be experience. So, I mean, even thinking back again to high school, or with your family, or with your friends, that when you're engaged outside of the classroom, you can get just as much information about yourself and what's out there as being inside the classroom as well. So both have value. And I think of things like internships or jobs or studying abroad or volunteering, where you're taking in information about, oh, I really enjoy being around these types of people, or I really enjoy working with these types of things, right? I love when I was outside working with my hands. These experiential exploration opportunities are going to give you so much more information about yourself than any assessment could, because you're going to see what it actually feels like in situations. So if you need examples, or if you need to be connected with anyone, this is literally my job. And I know Michelle is passionate about this too. So feel free to reach out and we can talk about your specific situation and what interests you, what you value. Yeah, and so really from here, this is a lot of information. I know I want to leave a little time for questions too. If you would really like to talk about career, or what types of majors lead to different careers or jobs, you would come to me. So my name's Mackenzie, of course, and you can make an appointment through Pratt Pro. If you want to talk about goal setting and planning your academic career, where those majors might lead afterward, Michelle is your go-to, and you would make an appointment with Michelle through Starfish Solutions. Anything to add to that, Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, even if it's a conversation about, you're considering a couple different majors, we can talk about minors, we can talk about different electives,
Yes.
so we can integrate all different sort of academic pieces to create a whole, plan that feels like the right fit for you. So any of those questions, happy to talk about.
Yeah, such a good point about minors. Like I honestly, we didn't even include that as part of the conversation today, because we try to keep it kind of big picture, but also honing in a little bit on specifics. So many more conversations to be had. So many more. So that was a lot of talking. I know I need to take a breath. Take one breath, and I just want you to think about one potential takeaway or action item from this 45-minute conversation here today. Okay. And so I want to give, again, we have like 15 minutes or however much time we need, but I listed our contact information here as well. I know Michelle's been reaching out. I haven't as much, but I probably will now. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask them now or email us, anything just to help. So what's on your mind?
I just have a question about internships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Are the majority in New York City kind of area, or would there be any way to like find one in one's like hometown or something if they were to go home for the summer?
Oh yeah. I mean, I have that type of conversation all the time. So especially in the last like year and a half, most people weren't in New York, to be honest. So yeah, we can definitely talk about that. And when it might be the right time for you to do an internship, what an internship means for you. Because sometimes, with I don't know if we have any international students on this conversation, sometimes we have things authorization wise that limit us for the types of experiences we can get. For some of our domestic students, whether it's volunteering or part-time work or internships, we can explore what that fit might be for you depending on your situation. Definitely all across the US or internationally, we can talk about. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else on your all's mind? No, it's kind of intimidating to ask. Even with a small group, it can be intimidating to ask. So again, you can use the chat, you can email us individually, we can make an appointment, anything like that, and we can help with. My cat has now opened the door, so that's usually how we end most presentations here. So yeah. All right. Michelle, any last words?
No, I mean, the only thing I'm thinking about as we're talking about experiences and someone just asked about internships, it's good to, when you're trying different things, it's okay if it's not the right fit either. It can be just as important to figure out, oh, I actually really don't like this
Yes.
thing that I thought might be a good fit. It's just as important to have some experiences that feel like that too. So because it can help you kind of weed some things out, whether it's like a particular environment or a particular field, but yeah.
It's such a good point. It's sometimes so much easier to even look at the list of majors and cross out the ones you don't want to do, rather than just being like, what do I want to do? So really good point. And there's no wrong experience. It's all experience that we can add to, like, oh, this informed me about this side of my life, or this showed me I really don't want to do that every day, or whatever it might be. Really good point.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Are there online internships, and if so, what are they like?
Yeah, I would say it's different based on different fields and majors. So again, when I think about the last year and a half, the vast majority were online. And with certain industries that was a little bit more difficult. I think about, especially, it's not impossible, but especially our fine art majors broadly in the last year and a half, it was really challenging at times because the galleries were closed. And so our students really thought outside of the box for internship experiences and really did a great job. One example I have was, and I don't remember their specific major, but I know they were in fine art, again, broadly. They started a podcast and interviewed fine artists on the podcast. So they had the chance to interface, had the chance to build some really great skills. But again, some majors like, oh my gosh, communication design thrived in the last 2 years because a lot of what they do could be remote and could be online. And so it's kind of, it depends a little bit, but there are opportunities, and you can actually start to see some of those regardless of if you know what you want to major in or not on Pratt Pro. So it's this this website here. So not only is it the place where you can make appointments, it's also the place where you can see jobs and internships as a student. So it's just one place. There are many, but it's a good starting place. Great questions. I'm your internship go-to if you have questions about that. So I'm loving the internship questions. Anything else? Thank you all so much for coming today. I'll probably just send out a follow-up again just to see how we can help and next steps we can help you all with. But feel free to reach out anytime.
Yeah. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you all. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Ooh, so I'm gonna obviously stop recording, but maybe, yeah.